Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Dallin Anderson, and today we are going to be talking about how to reprogram your mind. So a lot of times people are living their life and their mind isn't helpful. They have all these fears, they have all these doubts, they have all these things that are slowing them down mentally. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you can reprogram that. A lot of people experience a lot of worry. They're always worrying about things. And it's kind of hard for them to have hope. They're kind of in this place where life just feels like it's getting them down all the time. Like it's keeping them at this place that's really hard to deal with. So this is all because of the mind. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about how to change that. It's going to be a super short video today. Just real quick, I've got a podcast later. As you guys know, we do the Wisdom in Christ podcast, so definitely go check out the previous episodes of that. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So basically, the human mind, the best way I've ever heard to describe the human mind is like a garden. This is the best analogy I've ever personally heard. So a lot of times people, they go throughout their life and their mind is like a garden, but the problem is they don't know this, they don't understand the laws of reality, and because they lack understanding, that lack of understanding leads them to unnecessary suffering. Unnecessary worry, doubt, fear, right? So your mind is programmed in a certain sense. It's like there's a lot of weeds in there. And those weeds are basically taking nutrients from the positive things that you're trying to do. So you have to pluck those weeds. And it's not anybody else's fault. It's not your parents' fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just the fact that your garden, except for maybe yourself, definitely yourself, the fact that your garden is full of weeds. Now, this is probably because of ignorance, so don't be hard on yourself. You probably have a garden full of weeds because you lack understanding, not because you intentionally wanted to create such a mess. But your mind is like a garden. So if you're having a lot of fears, a lot of doubts, a lot of anxieties, a lot of just, any experience of emotions that are kind of slowing you down, rather than emotions that are helping bring you to where you want to go, those are emotions created because of your mind. Everything in reality can be traced back to your mind. If you have a fear about something, it started in your mind. If you have a desire, it started in your mind. Everything in your entire life starts here, in your mind. So, if you're experiencing these things, it's probably a sign that you need to do some weeding in the garden. Because you have all this mental resistance that's slowing you down. So let's talk about how you do that. So either family, friends, or yourself, or whatever, however it got there, you've got a messy mind. That's why you feel like you need to reprogram it. That's why you feel like it's not working good. That's why you feel like your confidence levels should be higher even though they're not. Okay? It's because of mental activity. And a lot of times when people hear this, they don't want to. Because the thing is illusions are very, very, hard to, if you're living in an illusion, then it's hard not to take offense to the person that tries to point it out, right? Because you're living in the illusion. So you're operating from the state of illusion. So if the person that isn't living in that illusion tries to come and say, hey, look, your mind is the reason you don't feel energy, it can feel kind of like a personal attack. But I assure you it's not. It's not a personal attack. It's just reality, okay? Like you've been living in ignorance. That's why you don't understand. That's why it feels like, okay, you should be feeling good. You know that you should be, but you don't know why you're not. That's because of ignorance. So you're living in an illusion. And that illusion, that ignorance, makes it so that if somebody tries to point it out to you, it's offensive. Okay? But the reality of the situation is nobody's trying to offend you, hopefully, but what they are trying to do is open your eyes. So up until this point, the periods of your life where you were successful or the periods of your life where you weren't, that's not because of some exterior factor. That's not because you had, a good economy through that period of your life. It's not because you had a good whatever, right? It's not because you had some exterior cause. The reason you succeed, the reason you feel good, the reason you're successful during certain periods of your life and you're not successful during others is because of your mind. So that's what we're getting into today, is how to reprogram your mind. Okay? Because really the truth of the matter is that your mind can be the most powerful asset that you have, or it can be your greatest enemy. And if it's full of useless things, if it's full of fear, of doubt, of uncertainty, it's your greatest enemy. It's going to slow you down. But if you weed the garden, you make things clean, you make things pure, then it's going to be your biggest friend. Okay? So your mind is the reason you feel these things. And I'm not talking about just biologically your brain, okay? Like it is that too. We obviously have your brain here. Hopefully you have one. Some people, it seems like they might not, I know, in today's world. But I promise you that you do have a brain, hopefully. And this thing right here is the biological, right? This is the biological organ that when people say mind, they think brain. But I'm not talking about your brain. I am talking about your brain in a certain sense because they're so connected, right? Your mind and your brain are connected. But I'm talking about something more than just your brain, okay? Because the mind is almost more than just a biological thing. It's kind of a spiritual thing too. Like you can imagine yourself, you can imagine what the stars look like. You can imagine all these different things, and you can actually put your mind, your consciousness, your focus somewhere other than just inside of this thing that we call the brain. Okay? So your mind is kind of more expansive, more spiritual than just your brain is a biological thing. I am talking about your brain in the sense that as you reprogram your mind, your brain will reprogram. So there's certain neurons that are firing and wiring together, and they're firing and wiring in certain patterns that are not helpful. Okay? So you can think of like your friends, okay? If you have friends, then your friends you've probably seen people gossip before. Now, let's say Joe Blow right here. Let's say Joe right here. He does something kind of bad, like maybe he steals a wallet from a different friend. Okay, so Joe does something bad. So all of your friends, all of them are sitting right here and they're talking about Joe. They're like, oh, do you see Joe over there? Joe stole that wallet. I can't believe he would do that. I'm so glad that he got caught by the authorities and had to spend 3 days in jail or whatever, right? So that's gossip, right? People get talking about things, right? It's a natural human thing to do. Well, your brain does the same thing, all right? So let's say that you have one neuron, okay? We'll draw a little person here. And imagine this is a neuron in your brain, like a receptor site or a neuron, okay? And this neuron in your brain is a network. It's part of a bigger network. Just like how people are part of bigger communities. We have our family network, we have our community network, our country, right? People are part of networks. Well, your neurons also have networks. They are like a network, like a family, like a community of people. And so when you have one person here, for example, let's say that this person represents this neuron, okay? Well, instead of a bad person stealing a wallet, let's just say that you had a doubt about yourself today. And you let that doubt take seed. So it wasn't just that you felt it and then said, oh, that's not who I am, and quickly didn't let it come into your consciousness. You didn't let that doubt attach itself to you. Instead of doing that, you actually let it attach. You actually said, okay, this is true, okay? So that person that represents that neuron is your doubt, okay? So that doubt that you let take hold, that you let that seed get planted instead of pulling it up right away like you should, because whenever you're working with the mind, you need to be weeding as often as you can and not letting bad seeds fall into the soil, right? So if you have that doubt, which is a bad seed, right? That's a bad seed. Doubts are not helpful. I don't know anybody that got married because they were too scared to walk up and talk to their future wife, right? It's not helpful, okay? So if you have this doubt within yourself, and you let it take hold, you let it take seed, basically, you just think it's only one neuron, right? No, that's actually a family of neurons. So just like how your friends were gossiping about that guy that stole the wallet, now all of a sudden, you have this doubting neuron in your brain, and it starts talking to other neurons, and they start doubting, and then all of a sudden you've got a family of doubting neurons in your mind, and you wonder why you don't feel focus, poise, confidence, flow, youthfulness, joy, right? All those positive things. Well, you've created a network, you've created a family of evil little gossiping neurons that are all just little useless little things, little guys in your own mind, okay? So what you want to do is just like how you would weed the garden, you want to consciously, through self-awareness, through meditation, through just time, prayer, being dedicated to change, you want to actually weed out those bad neurons. Okay, I have a doubt about myself. It's not true, right? Instead of giving power to this little guy, you say, oh, that's just an illusion. That's a lie. Because the reality is that you as a person, you're designed to feel good. You're designed to feel confident, to feel happy, to be filled with joy, confidence. So if you have these bad doubting neurons, then yeah, it kind of is a lie, like it is an illusion. If you give power to it, it becomes real. But ultimately, you can just not give power to it, and that doubting neuron will not make any friends. Okay, but this is a lifelong process. So if you start to watch this video and a few hours later you start to get some super powerful doubt about yourself, okay, try to weed that out as quickly as you can. Try to work with that, try to get it out of the way, but don't feel bad if you're still doubting yourself. This is a lifelong journey. You have to learn how to reprogram over time, right, to really make the most progress. So to make the most progress, don't try to do this all in one day, but realize that over time, you can weed the garden. I grew up weeding a garden. I grew up with a garden, growing corn, tomatoes, and I've never weeded the entire garden in a single day. I go one row at a time. So don't try to do too much. But at the same time, I'm just explaining the science, both on a biological and a spiritual level, what's going on. So this is what's happening in your biological brain, okay? But the physical biological brain is being reprogrammed by those more spiritual thoughts. Because the mind is kind of more of a spiritual thing, right? You can project your consciousness anywhere. Your mind is kind of more than just a biological brain, okay? It's almost like a living thing. It's more spiritual. So as you change your thoughts, which are kind of like, thoughts are kind of more like broadcasting waves or something, and less like a physical biological thing. So as you change your thoughts, you're receiving those broadcasting waves. You're choosing what ones you want to attach yourself to, what ones you believe are not part of your character, ones you don't believe to be valid. And by allowing those more spiritual things to enter into your life, you're actually changing your biology. Biologically, your brain is rewiring to where, instead of this being a doubt and a bad seed that's gossiping and creating friends, all of a sudden, guess what happens? This is actually faith. Okay? So now, instead of this being a bad gossiping neuron that's gossiping fear, that's gossiping doubt, creating more of them to where now it feels like you have all this resistance. It's like you're going up against a whole army of doubts and thoughts. It's because you kind of are. Like, you have created an army of doubtful neurons. Through your thoughts, which are more spiritual, like I said, kind of like waves of living energy, thoughts are. But at the same time, biologically, you've created gossiping neurons. They're gossiping and they're negatively speaking. Okay, what you want to have instead of gossiping neurons, you want to have community-driven like neurons that are focused on joy, peace. So instead of them gossiping, imagine just family conversation, okay? Like on a good family day where all the family's together, they're talking about something wholesome. They're not talking about other people and their mistakes. Instead, they're all talking about how awesome it was to go play on the water slide, or to go, to the ice skating rink that week or whatever, right? So instead, you imagine a family of people talking about something wholesome. That's what you want to create in your mind. So instead of gossiping neurons, now you have wholesome conversation neurons. Hopefully, like I said, like if you can plant a neuron of faith, then all of a sudden he's going to make friends. Those friends are going to make friends. And inside of your mind, instead of an army of doubters, instead of an army of fear, you have an army of faith inside of your own mind. This is all happening. This is why people relentlessly, unnecessarily worry. A lot of people have constant fear, constant doubt, constant anxiety. It's not because it's not because you're supposed to be that way forever, okay? It's because inside of your mind, you have a family of gossiping neurons, and all they can talk about is fear and doubt because that's all they know. So you need to reprogram these neurons through your thinking, through your thoughts, until they're, and actions too. You can't just only do thoughts. But through your thoughts and actions until they're faith-based neurons. And this is a lifelong journey. Your mind could have a lot of weeds. It could have years worth of weeds, okay? So it's going to take time to change this. But I can assure you that through meditation, dedication, controlling your thoughts, your actions, you absolutely will change this. You will change it from fear-based to faith-based, and then you've got a bunch of gossiping neurons. Well, we won't use the word gossiping. We have a bunch of neurons having a conversation about positive things, okay? Because gossip is negative. So on the positive side of things, you want to have a conversation of neurons, positive conversation in your own mind. Hope that makes sense, right? Instead of a family of haters, instead of an inner, like, imagine your mind as like a family of neurons. Instead of a family of haters, you want to have a family of friends, a family of people that are positive. And again, I know this might feel kind of like, okay, well, you don't understand me. I can hear already people commenting, you don't understand me. You don't know what it's like to feel all of these thoughts. And I'll just tell you right now that first of all I do, because I have a mind too, so I've experienced what it's like to have a lot of weeds in there and what it's like not to have a lot of weeds in there. But even let's just say that I don't understand on the level that you're experiencing. Maybe yours is way worse than what I ever went through. But I can still tell you that this is law. This is law. I'm not teaching you something that I think. I'm not teaching you a theory about your life, about your body, about reality. I'm not teaching a theory. This is law, okay? This is law. So it doesn't matter how far down the pit you are or how much progress you've made. Every person that wants to make progress uses the same law because it's a universal law. So it doesn't matter if yours was worse than mine. It doesn't matter if yours is really bad. It doesn't matter if you feel like nobody in the world understands you. Because the same law that person in a bad place or in a good place, the same law they use to improve their life is the same law that you can use to improve yours. And it doesn't matter where you're at. You could be at the very, very bottom, at the very depths of despair, okay? Let's say you're down here at the very depths of despair, and up here is like joy and peace. It doesn't matter how far you are down on the scale or how far up you are on the scale. The same universal law can be used to rise up the scale or down it, right? The reason you're so low down the scale is because of ignorance. Don't condemn yourself. I'm not here to condemn you. I'm just here to tell you like why things are happening. Because you probably really do want to know. I mean, sometimes people get so attached to their suffering that they actually don't want to change. It becomes something where they would actually prefer the problem because it gets them attention. And again, this isn't conscious a lot of the time, but it gets them attention. It gets them a lot of attention and energy, and they feel like they're getting love for it, right? Which in a way they are. People are naturally empathetic. We're naturally compassionate. So if we see somebody suffering, we probably will give them a lot of love, and we probably will look out for them. But because of that, sometimes either consciously or unconsciously, people start to believe that, okay, I don't want to let go of this problem because it's giving me all these, social rewards. People are kind to me because of it. So yeah, what I'm telling you is you might be really down here low on the scale, either out of ignorance or not, but you can either go up or down the scale based on the same law, and that law is the mental truth of reality. In other words, if you want to change physical reality, then you go straight to the mind. You want to change your mind, your thinking process, that will change physical reality. Okay, so the same law that I could use to become extremely successful is the same law I could use to not become successful. It's all in how you use it. That's the reality of the situation at hand. So if your mind is like a garden, okay, and you've got, one corn right here, you've got one corn, you've got another corn coming up, you've got another corn coming up, okay, this is stuff you want to plant, all right? And inside of this garden, let's draw some, I know it's not very good corn, you guys. That's not the point here. So you've got this corn growing, right? It's looking really good. You're excited. You know that you're going to be able to get some husks from it. You're going to be able to eat some food soon. So you're like, oh man, this is looking really good. But, the only problem is down here you've just got tons and tons and tons of weeds, okay? And you're actually, it looks messy. The weeds are pulling nutrients from the corn, even though the corn is bigger now. So once corn gets pretty big, the weeds don't do as much, right? Once the corn is bigger. But at the same time, you've got all these weeds, and your garden just looks like a mess, okay? This is just exactly like your mind. If you want to live a life where things come easily, then you probably don't want the weeds here. A lot of people choose to live a life where, I've seen this happens with real gardening. I've seen a lot of times people grow a garden and they just let the weeds run wild, okay? Because they still water their good stuff, it still pops up, it still grows, but they just let weeds run wild. So some people like to have both the good and the bad. I don't know why you would. Right? Because once you've tasted how good the good is, I really don't know why you'd want both the bad and the good. I don't understand that personally. But some people choose to live their lives where they never weed their garden, but the corn still grows because they water it. They spend enough time watering the garden. But what I'm talking about is peak performance. I'm talking about having no fear, no doubt, no anxiety, nothing like that. I'm talking about actually becoming physically, mentally, spiritually in a place where you're clean, you're pure. I mean, obviously it's a lifelong journey, so you're always going to be weeding your garden for the rest of your life. But to the point where you're abnormally clean, abnormally organized. Okay? So some people choose to live a life where they have both good and bad. They let their weeds grow with their corn. What I'm telling you guys to do is why create all this unnecessary resistance? Why create all of this unnecessary suffering? Okay? Why not just continually over time through the practice, through extreme self-discipline, through practice, why not just weed out the weeds? Okay? To where you just have corn and then all of a sudden everything that's created is all good. Okay? This is possible in your own mind. Weeds are constant. You don't even barely have to do anything and weeds will start coming up, right? But that if you're constantly working on it, then you're able to get them before they really get too big, before they take too much of a hold, before they take too much root, and before it becomes hard. Because if your garden's already weeded, then it's just keeping up on it. If your garden has a bunch of weeds, you've got a lot of work to do. That's not to make you discouraged, but it's the reality of the situation. Okay? So you want to get to this place where your mind is as clean as possible. As clean as humanly possible. Once you're in this place, then you are going to be able to be free from these things like fear, like doubt, like insecurities. So reprogramming your mind is really just deciding that for the rest of your life, you're going to be dedicated in this thing. You're going to weed the garden. You're going to keep your thoughts clean. You're going to meditate. You're going to be organized in your thinking. It's a commitment to yourself. Once you understand that your life is the result of your own thinking, right? The quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Once you understand that, it's really about improving the quality of your thoughts. And the quality of your life will improve. Because you're going straight to that divine law. So yeah, if you want to reprogram your mind, it's a commitment to yourself for the rest of your life that you are going to keep good thoughts in, keep bad thoughts out, and you're going to continually weed that garden. Thoughts of fear, thoughts of doubt, thoughts of insecurity, thoughts of lust, thoughts of gluttony, right? Anything that's unclean, that slows you down, needs to be weeded and plucked. Anything that is helpful, anything that's good, that's positive, keep planting those. Get that family of neurons talking. That positive, confident family of neurons. Okay, all right, so that's your mind. This is how you reprogram your mind. You need to change your thinking. Obviously, right? Because your mind is a product of thought. So to reprogram your mind, you need to change your thinking. To change your thinking, you got to start weeding your garden. You got to keep it clean. And you got to have that nice clean slate that really is conducive to success, to clear thinking, to positive emotions. Okay, perfect. We're 30 minutes in, way longer than I wanted to go. But yeah, if you want to program your mind, program your thoughts, choose your thoughts, weed out bad thoughts, choose good thoughts. You can do that over time. If you've got a big messy garden, you probably want to start weeding right now. Don't try to weed the whole garden at once, okay? One row at a time, one day at a time, one thought at a time. But just start weeding. Start cleaning your thoughts. And then second to that, of course, your subconscious and your conscious mind. So you've got your conscious up here. Okay, and then under here, you've got your sub-mind. Okay, so a lot of times all those weeds got there because of you unconsciously accepted a thought in, so you got to start becoming aware. You got to start becoming present, aware of all your thoughts, conscious of what you're thinking. As you do that, then your subconscious and your conscious mind will kind of become one. That's the goal, is to get them to where they become one. But one of the best ways to change your life is to reprogram your subconscious, because that's going to go straight to your conscious mind. You can do that through changing where you're at, environment, being around empowering influences, positive people, right? People that say things that are hopeful, helpful. If you're around people that are saying things that are helpful, hopeful, you're going to reprogram your subconscious mind, and it cannot help but reprogram your mind as a result of that. So a great way to reprogram your mind is to choose your environment, choose what you say, choose what you think, Affirmations, of course, kind of self-explanatory. For people that don't know why people listen to affirmations, it's because they're reprogramming their subconscious mind, okay? And as a result of reprogramming their subconscious mind, that changes their conscious mind. So affirmations do work because you're planting a seed straight into the subconscious level of mind. And then that subconscious level of mind gets manifested in your conscious thoughts, actions, choices. That's why it works. But yeah, that's how to reprogram your mind. It's like a garden. Keep it clean. Choose positive influences, empowering influences in your life, people, places. Listen to empowering information, good books. Listen to affirmations. You can change this. You can reprogram your mind. You can get to a place where it's confident, where it feels peace, where it makes better choices, and really where you feel good. But it starts with your thoughts. So try to control those, and you will change your life. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you learned something. 30 minutes long, way longer than I planned. Either way, I love you guys. Keep those neurons talking, the good ones, and cast away and pluck and weed out those bad ones. I'll see you guys in future videos, and as always, peace be unto you.